Okay, let's start in prayer. Thank you, Lord, that we can just come before you at the end of the, let's say, working week and just come together, have fun together, play games together, and listen to and worship your name together, Lord. I ask that as we go through your word now, that you move me out of the way and how I could pervert it and mess it up, and you can just carry across your message and your desire for this message to everyone that hears this. Amen. Okay, cool. So to start off with, I originally had something planned for this Friday, and then on Monday I got a question from someone, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good question. Can I use that, as a question to answer for you? Because I don't know, you guys haven't been using it, but we do have a question box." And then I was planning to use as that, just to also as a reminder to you guys. And then I was like, wait, this question is like a lot to answer, and that's not supposed to be a long thing. And then I started thinking about it, and I was thinking, this actually links in, or I can link this in with what I wanted to say. And then what I wanted to say just got more and more and more, and then it turned into this devotion, which I'm going to give now. Okay, cool. So we all agree, we're all happy with that, you know where it's coming from. So, to start off with, when I open my book, I was going to. How do I know if the passions and desires I feel are God-given or man-bred? So, not bread you eat, but bread like you grow it from your own sinful flesh, should I say. Not meaning that the passion necessarily is sinful or the desire is sinful. So, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of, in maths terms, the comparison test or the squeeze theorem. Probably not. No. Okay, so basically how this works is if you have a function or a graph, okay, so this is the real functional graph, and it is governed or controlled by another function above it, so it cannot cross it. So if the above function goes down, obviously the below function has to go down. That basically, in a nutshell, is the idea behind this, both the comparison theory and the squeeze theorem. Okay, and there's some maths behind it. But anyway, we are going to do hopefully the biblical equivalent with this question. So we are going to look at some things that govern behind this, that govern where your desires, where your passions should go, and we're going to compare it. Or where your godly desires and godly passions should go and compare it. You guys all get it? You all see where we're going? So if it sounds like I'm jumping around to a lot of topics, I am. Because I've got, I think, 6 here that we need to go through. And then we all compare. Okay? Okay. Okay, so to start off with, number 1, your faith or belief. Okay, so now, what I didn't mention is saying if it's God-given. So we're going to look at things that are given by God to compare. Okay, I should have mentioned that. So, your faith or belief. Who here believes your faith or belief is given by God? See a few hands. Okay, so now I'm going to try to convince you guys of that, whether you believe it or not. So, where is it? Can someone open on Hebrews 12, verse 1 to 3 so long? One person. So Stuart's got it. Hebrews 12, verse 1 to 3. Okay, so before we get there, I'm going to start off with Mark 9, verse 24. And I've spoken about this before, but I think most of you guys weren't there. So what happened in the context of this verse, here the disciples were trying to heal a man's son, or actually cast out a demon, and then they couldn't, and they were like, "Jesus, can you do it?" And then Jesus like, "Yeah." But he's like, you need faith to do it. And here, now we get to the verse. It says, immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. Does anyone remember me talk about that before? Testing your memory here. Okay, note how Jesus answered this. He did not say, I never read the answer, but you guys only know it. Jesus did not say to them, but you believe, you don't need me to help you overcome your unbelief. You guys know that? He didn't say that. Just looking at me confused. Do you want to check? He didn't say that. Because he knew belief comes from God. Your faith comes from God. Your faith is not something you've come up with yourself. John Piper once said in a podcast, he said, ask God to change your heart to further glorify Him, and don't let go of Him until He does. But focus on that first part. Ask God to change your heart, to give you faith, to give you belief. Because you don't make your own faith, your own belief. It comes from God. So, Stuart, read your verse.
Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart.
Okay, so I'm sure most of you guys heard that. That is like standard Christian coffee cup verse that everyone has heard if you've had some kind of background in church. But if you notice, there's a reoccurring theme of persevere. Keep going, don't stop. You don't win the race by stopping. You guys get that? Yes? Yes. Okay, so simply put, your faith, just because your faith is God-given, does not mean that is simply that you're going to ask God and you got all the faith you need. If you notice, the quote I gave you from John Piper, he ended off by saying, don't let go of God, or don't let go of Him until He does. Okay, let me read the whole thing. Ask God to change your heart to further glorify Him, and don't let go of Him until He does. You got to persevere. You got to keep going and keep asking God for faith. Okay. So 2 Peter 1, verse 3 to 11 said, 3 to 11? No, not 3 to 11. I don't know. I think I'm just just 3. Just forget the 11. His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. I just want to note there, by His own glory of goodness. You guys remember I've been hammering this over the last few months. God is for God. You guys remember that? God is for God's glory. Yes. Okay. So I'm not talking about that tonight. You guys can be thankful. But anyway, His divine power has given us everything we need. That includes your faith. That includes your belief that you need in Him. You guys believe that? You happy with that? Yes? No? Okay. Okay. So that is number one, faith and belief. You guys are going to remember that because we're going to come back to it. Okay. So number 2 is joy. Another verse that someone needs to find somewhere. Okay, Eloise, please get Romans 14, verse 17. Who was the other person that also wanted to find a verse? Stuart, you already done one. Vanya, please get Romans 15, verse 13. And there was another one. Matthew, do you want to get verse 14, verse 17? Matthew, do you want to get another verse? Can you get me Philippians 4, verse 4? Okay, I'm not sure if we'll get to all these, but anyway. Start off with another quote by John Piper. Yeah, I've got a bit of, I've been following him a bit. God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in Him. Who's heard that before?
Ernst.
Okay, you heard it from Ernst.
I heard it this morning. My granny said my cousin has it in his, what's its status?
There we go. I saw a hand aside. Eloise heard of it. Okay, so basically, this is a quote by John Piper, which is like his motto for this whole setup he has of Christian hedonism. Who knows what that means? Yes, Christian hedonism. I know, shock and horror. Hedonism and Christians? No. So let me describe it quickly. Hedonism is looking for joy, looking for your own joy, or living from day to day from your own joy. So what is Christian hedonism? That's a question, guys, to answer.
Trying to find joy always, above all, above everything in Christianity.
In Christ. So trying to find joy in Christ. Those eyes. Yes. To always have fun. That is a bit more on the side of hedonism only. And hedonism can be a very, very sinful thing. If you guys have ever read or going to read The Picture of Dorian Gray, hedonism cannot be a good thing, guys. So, hedonism purely on its own is bad. But hedonism, Christian hedonism, is looking for the joy in God. Okay. So, just said that. Okay. So 2 Corinthians 7 verse 4, written by Paul. Rather, as servants of God, we commend... What did I write here? I did not copy that properly. We commend ourselves in every way, in great endurance, in troubles and hardships and distresses. Okay, Colossians 1 verse 24, also written by Paul. Now I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, and I will fill up in my flesh something in my hair. Okay, let me read that again, sorry. When the panic is over, it's a flying, living organism. Okay, so Colossians 1 verse 24, let me start that over. Now I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, and I fill up in my flesh what is still lacking in regard to Christ's affliction for the sake of his body, which is the church. But I would just emphasize that now I rejoice. Paul had durable and robust joy. His joy lasted in any situation. In prison, he was like, okay, you know that they would, I can't think. I heard this thing a few days ago. I can't repeat it. But there's like a thing where, Philippians 1 verse 21 says, no, I'm just thinking it was top of my head. It says, for me to live as Christ and die is gain. And like the officials at the time were like, okay, let's we don't like what Paul's doing. Let's throw him in prison. And they throw him in prison, and Christians go sing worship songs there, and all the guards get converted, and boom, things happen. And I can't say it like this person did. I'm probably shouldn't be saying it if I can't say it properly. But anyway, but bringing it back to what I was saying about Philippians 1 verse 21, which is the for me to live as Christ and die as gain verse, then they were like, okay, well, let's kill him. And he was like, well, to die is gain. And they're like, okay, well, if we leave him alive, he's like, for to live as Christ. And they're like, well, what can we do now? Anyway, so I didn't get that across very gracefully, but you guys get my point. Paul's joy was robust. He was unshakable. Galatians 5 verse 22. I didn't ask anyone to get that, did I? No, I didn't. I asked you to get Romans. No, I didn't. Okay, no, you can't. So Galatians 5 verse 22 lists the fruit of the Spirit. So there's probably someone here that can quote it. There always is someone. But, no, put down your hand. But, guys, fruit of the Spirit. One of them is joy. What do we know about the fruit of the Spirit? No, not what are they. What do we know about them? Where do you get the fruit of the Spirit? Where do you get the fruit of the Spirit? That's the question.
What's the question?
Where do you get the fruit of the Spirit?
From God.
From God. The fruit of the Spirit comes from God. They are gifts. They're given by God. You can, when you spend time with God, the fruit of the Spirit show in your life. They're characteristics of God that show in your life because you spend time with Him. So, joy comes from God. You guys see I'm linking that back. Who has Romans 14 verse 17? You can read.
For the kingdom of God is not eating and drinking, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit.
Joy is in the kingdom of God. Romans 15 verse 13.
Now may the God of hope fill you all with joy and peace in believing, that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Quickly repeat that. Sorry, I missed.
Now may the God of hope fill you all with joy and peace in believing, that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Okay, I think that one's pretty clear. I don't know why I had to hear it twice. Joy comes from God. God fills you with joy. Philippians 4 verse 4 says. 4 verse 4.
You said that, but rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again. Rejoice.
Rejoice. First of all, it's good to rejoice. It's good to have joy. Second of all, rejoice in the Lord. Get your joy from God. And there is so many more verses like this. This was the one of the 6 topics where I was just like, okay, here's a verse, here's a verse, here's a verse, here's a verse. There's just so many. Like, just search up like joy, like Google joyverses.com. You'll just like get 50. I don't know how many you'll get, but yeah. But summary, joy is given by God. So we have faith is given by God. We have joy is given by God. You guys are going to remember that because we're going to come back to it. Okay, now this is a bit more of a, I don't know, I wouldn't say less joyful. I'll say it's a bit more of a serious one. Freedom from sin. Can someone tell me why do we sin? It's Adam's fault.
We inherited a sinful nature. Sort of, I want to say, in our blood.
So why does your nature want to sin?
I was going to say it's my nature.
Still your father.
It's sort of like since Adam and Eve, we were put in a jail cell and we keep getting bored in this jail cell.
Okay, those are all good answers, but not what I'm looking for. I always remember when I used to give an answer and I was told that I used to be like, all right, my answer's not good enough. So why do we sin? We sin because sin promises us joy. And it lies to us every time because it never lasts. What should I write here? We sin because it promises joy and our short-sighted, pleasure-seeking attitudes, we believe it. And that joy will never last. Not one time. So how do we stop sinning?
We find joy in something lasting.
Ooh, that's a good answer. And that's the answer I was looking for. Okay, I wrote here, we stop sinning by fixing ourselves clearly on the I said it in an American way. We stop sinning by fixing ourselves clearly on the surpassing joy of knowing Jesus Christ. And now this is just off the top of my head, but I remember reading where they say, life everlasting is knowing Jesus Christ. Your everlasting life is joyful. And that sounds like, yeah, obviously I don't want to die. But who can say that they keep living and they live, like wake up and one morning go, oh, I'm still here. Who can say that? I've done that. Okay, like 2 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us. So we need to look at the joy of God, to stop looking for the joy that we can't get from a liar. Romans 6, verse 67. So this is the only verse I have for this one. Not that is only one verse, it's the only one I found. Well, not the only one I found, didn't look hard enough. But anyway, it's off topic. So I'm just going to read this one. Romans 6, verse 67. For we know that our old self, let me restart that. For we know that our old self was crucified with him, so that the body ruled by sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves to sin, because anyone who has died has been set free from sin. So you know what that means? You guys know what that means? It's a question. Okay, you don't. So, when you are saved, you come to faith in Jesus. You come to know Jesus. And it's not that instant that you know Jesus, but you come to know Jesus. And through knowing Jesus, you get the joy that surpasses the joy that you try to get from sin. You get the joy of Jesus, the lasting joy. You guys get that? Yes? No? No? Yes? I heard like a few yeses and mumbles. Okay. You're nodding. Good to know. Okay. That's right. Romans 6, verse 67. Not 627. 627, not 67. That is my mistake. I didn't pronounce it very well.
There's only 23 verses.
I'm not making up verses. I'm not, what's his name? Joseph. I want to say Prince, but it's not Prince. Joseph something. Who's the guy that added to the Bible? Do we have no apologetic people here that would know? Wrote the Mormon Bible. What's his name? Wrong apologetics. Wrong apologetic. Anyway, there's Joseph or whatever who wrote the Bible or rewrote the Bible to add his own theology to it and just prophesied himself into it and added verses. And this is very off topic. Ask me about it afterwards. So, God gives us faith and belief. Agree with that? Yes. Gives us joy. Yes. Gives us freedom from sin. He frees us from sin. Yes? Okay, you guys are catching on. Now, I couldn't not say this one. God gives us love. Yes? Can I get someone to find me, Stuart, find me Mark 12, verse 29 to 31? At the moment, that's all. So, love. 1 John 4 verse 8, you guys probably have all heard it. Whoever does not love does not know God because God is love. He gives us himself. And the implications of this verse is massive. God is love. And to just add on to this, you guys have all heard John 3 verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believed in him shall not perish, but had eternal life. God loved you enough to die for you. And note how the verse said, for God so loved the world. He gave you his love. And if we had more time, I would also tell you about Hebrews 12 verse 6 and Proverbs 3 verse 12 that says God's love is not this fairy tale, happy ever after love that we get from the movies, but God's love is that true fatherly love that disciplines you and corrects you. And some of you, like I'm working on it myself, have a very negative connotation with discipline. And that's not true. Discipline is done through love. Punishment is not. So know the difference. God's love. Okay, so back to a quote by John Piper. This one's pretty cool but quite long, so listen up. The love of God is his passion to sustain and uphold and exalt his holiness and his Son for your everlasting enjoyment. If you put yourself at the center, you're suicidal because it robs you of the very glory of God and his enjoyment. I think that sums up the love of God quite well, but is a lot to wrap your head around. I had to read it 5 times. So I'll read it one more time for you guys, but we don't have time to read it 5 times. And if you guys really want to, you can check the video or the upload when it does come. The love of God is his passion to sustain and uphold and exalt his holiness and his Son for your everlasting enjoyment. If you put yourself at the center, you're suicidal because it robs you of the very glory of God and his enjoyment. And now if you listen to that carefully, it so clearly links into the whole Christian hedonism thing where your joy comes from God. And to start off with, the love of God is passion to sustain and uphold you and exalt his holiness and his Son for your everlasting enjoyment. What did I say about joy just now coming from God? Okay, so you guys get that? There we go. Jason's got it. Romans 5 verse 8. But God demonstrated his love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And the verse goes on to prove its own significance even further, but I won't read it now. This is a quote by Greg Morse, not John Piper this time. He is infinitely trustworthy, even with our love. Our. Am I saying that right? Our love. Our. I'm leaving out the R there. Our love. It's not working, guys.
When you say ow, it kind of sounds like you have
Ow, yeah.
I know. It's not working. So, God is trustworthy with your love as well. Who knows that if you put your love in people, it is a dangerous thing because it is with a sinful person? Who knows that? Okay, quite a few of us. It shows we've all been hurt. We've all been hurt because we put our love in people. And that's not a bad thing. Love people, guys. I'll get to that in a moment. But, yeah. God will not hurt you because he's not a sinful being. He doesn't sin. He is worthy of your love. So, please read Mark 12, verse 29 to 31 for us, Stuart.
Okay, I just want to say this before I read it, because I had to read it. Someone just asked Jesus what is the most important. The most important one, answered Jesus, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these.
Okay, so to start off with that, so I was just mentioning to you, and I said I'll get back to you. I just got back to that next verse. Love people, guys. It is important. Second of all, the main point of this: love is important. We get that. We understand that. We agree with that. Oh, God is love and God is important. I like that. Okay, so what do we have so far? We have faith and belief. Oh, Matthew's got it. Next we have joy. Matthew's got it. No, Matthew's got it again. Oh, freedom from sin. And the last one is love. Matthew doesn't have that one. Okay, so God gives us all of those things. Now, wisdom. Wisdom is a living, breathing characteristic of God. You can't have wisdom without God. Okay, let me have my proof for that. But someone that's not Stuart can get me a verse quickly. Okay, Auntie Marlene, can you get us Job 32, verse 6 to 9. Okay, so I'm also going to read another one from Job because you guys know, you ever heard of the 3 wisdom books of the Bible? Yes, no? Yes. Okay, what are the 3 wisdom books of the Bible, Reuben? There we go. Okay, so 3 wisdom books of the Bible is Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job, or Job. If you want to speak normal English, not use the Hebrew, the actual way it's supposed to say. So all 3 of those have a lot to say about wisdom. So, but we're just going to look at Job today because, well, we don't have that much time, and just going to look at small parts of it because we don't have that much time. So, I'm going to look at a verse here from Job 28, and I'm just like the whole Job 28 is like amazing. You guys should read it. But most of Job is amazing, but I'm going to read Job 28 is amazing. I'm going to just take parts of it again because we don't have that much time. But Job 28, verse 20 says, "When then does wisdom come from? Where does understanding dwell?" And like the whole chapter is building up saying, this comes from there, this is wherever. But wisdom, where does that come from? You can't go mine wisdom. Who's going to mine wisdom for me today? Because I would like some of that. Would pay for it. So, Job 28, verse 23. So just like 3 verses later. God understands the way to it, that's wisdom, and He alone knows where it dwells. And then it goes on to say, because God knows everything. In summary, it doesn't actually say that, but the summary. Okay, and then it continues. So verse 27 to 28 then continues. It says, "Then He looked at wisdom and praised it. He confirmed it and tested it, and He said to the human race, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And what did I write here? And to shun evil is understanding." So basically, God knows where wisdom is. Wisdom comes from God, and wisdom is good. You guys got that? Okay, so then Job 32, verse 69 says,
There's no 69.
629!
Pronunciation needs to be very clear.
And Eli, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years and you are aged. Therefore I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. I said, let days speak and many years teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in man, the breath of the Almighty, that makes him understand. It is not the old who are wise, nor the aged who understand what is right.
Okay, so let me also, I forgot I should have set the context of that, but that is like my favorite verse of Job, because the whole time Job is sulking, and then his friends come up and we're like, this is why God did this to you, and then Job's like, you're wrong, and they're like, this is why God did this to you, and he's like, you're wrong, and they kept going like this. And eventually when they were done, Elihu, one of Job's friends, the youngest of all of his friends that were there, was like, what's up guys, you have no wisdom, because I thought, because you are old, you would have wisdom, but what you guys are saying isn't true. Wisdom comes from God and you don't have it. You guys get that? But my point is, wisdom comes from God, and you guys hear that from the verse, or should we read it again? Yes, no? No. So you guys heard it from the verse? Or no, you never heard it and you should read it again? Or yes, you did hear it and we shouldn't read it again? Okay, so you got it from there. We're all happy with that. Okay, cool. So we have, number 1, God gives us faith and belief. Number 2, God gives us? And then God gives us? Freedom from sin. And then He gives us love. And God gives us? Wisdom. Okay. Now this brings me to my last point that I wrote down, but definitely not the last thing that God gives us. And this is probably the most important one. And its implications are massive and huge. And it's basically the whole reason God wrote the Bible. God gives us salvation. We all agree with that one?
Yes.
Yes. God is the only one with the power to save your soul. Without God, you are dead. Not just here on earth, but forever. You are dead. And dead, we're talking Bible dead. Bible dead is burning in fire forever, tormented in hell without the presence of God, without a moment to sing glory to his name. Dead. And the perfect verse, which you guys have also lovingly quoted for me earlier about love, comes from John 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world. Loved the world. He loved the world, guys. He loves you. He gives you love. That he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life, because God saved your soul. Because he loves you. He gave you salvation. And there's a verse someone was supposed to get for me. Who wants to get me Romans 10, verse 9 to 10? Yosha's going to get me Romans 10, verse 9 to 10. And someone's going to get me 1 Peter 2, verse 9 to 10. Okay, Vanya, can you please give me 1 Peter 2, verse 9 to 10?
Just because you asked so much.
Okay, so 10, verse 9 to 10. Okay, so Matthew 19, verse 25 to 26 says, 2, verse 9 to 10. When the disciples heard this, okay, wait, let me tell you what they heard. So God was just saying it's difficult for the rich and powerful to be saved. When the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished and asked, "Who then can be saved?" Jesus looked at them and said, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." God is the only one who can save your soul. No man who has ever walked this earth except for Jesus can save your soul. Without him, you are dead. Guys all agree with that?
Yes.
Shall I read again? Did we get that? With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Read it anyway. Okay, only God can save. Yosha, please read your verse.
If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God. And it is by confessing with your mouth that you are saved.
So, we all agree, hearing that verse, that is God that saved you. That God saves you. That's nothing you did. It's God that saved you. It's you. It's the faith that He gives you. Remember the faith that He gives you? First point. Who remembers that? The faith that God gives you that saves you. Isn't that like amazing? Only God can save. 1 Peter 2 verse 9 to 10 says,
Okay. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, who once were not a people, but are now the people of God, who had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy.
okay, I missed the part I was listening for, but I know what part I was listening for. Can I quickly have a look at that? 1 Peter 2 verse 9 to 10. No, it wasn't the versions, it was just my lapse in concentration. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of his name. Okay, see, it's not the versions, it's right there. That you may proclaim the praises of his name. I couldn't let it go without saying it. I did say it already, I'm going to say it again. God saved you to bring glory to his name. I love that concept. I'm sure you guys are realizing it. God brings glory to his own name, and he can do so unapologetically, unlike you and me. So, God gives salvation. So God gives us, number 1, faith and belief. Number 2 is? Joy. Number 3 is? Freedom from sin. Number 4 is? Love. Number 5 is? Wisdom. Saying foster doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Oh, it exists more. Number 6 is? Salvation. God gives us all of these things and many, many more things. These are not the only things God gives us, but these are just the things I'm pointing out for our comparison test, our squeeze theorem. You guys remember that? You guys remember? So I see some nodding heads. Okay. So now back to our question. So if your passions or desires can truly tick all the boxes above that I've given you, then you know they come from God. And I'll explain what I mean by can truly tick those boxes. Otherwise, it's something bubbling up from your own sinful mind. Okay. Do you guys get that? Let me explain it anyway. So, if your passion or desires, take the easiest one to go against. If your passion or desires are to, I don't want to, how do I say this? Your passions and desires is not to be saved. It is clearly not something given by God, because God gives salvation. Okay, that's a simple one and not the best one to use for our comparison test, but it's still important. Because if you're not saved while living here on earth, there's no point in you living here on earth. You would have been better off not. Okay, now let's have a look. How does one go against wisdom? How would a passion or desire go against wisdom? And let me go for one of the easiest to understand examples. If I have this crush on this girl and I know it goes against all wisdom, it's not wise to go and ask her out because, well, I cannot see marriage with her. It's just not possible. There's just something in the way. Is that wise to ask her out no matter how big my crush is on her? That was a question, guys. Is it wise? Should I ask her out? No, it's not. It goes against wisdom, so therefore that's a desire or a passion that is not from God. Love. If I have the desire or passion to go out into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, and that includes going out and loving them, because preaching the gospel, you show God to them, and God is love. So you go out, if I'm going to go out and just show love to people, is that a God-given passion or desire? I think it's a pretty easy one. Yes, it is. Because God gives us love. You guys get it? If my passion or desire, this is I think easy one. If my passion or desire is to go steal a new laptop, that's sinful, right? Pretty easy. Because God freed us from sin, and now this is desire to sin. It's not a God-given passion or desire. But what if my passion or desire is to help people get free from sin? Let's take a common one that I'm sure we have all heard of in some or other circumstance that haunts this world greatly, is pornography. My passion or desire is, okay, let's start where it should start, is to make sure that I am free from the sin. Is that a God-given passion or desire? Yes, because God frees you from sin. And to help other people be freed from that sin. Is that a God-given passion or desire? Yes. Because God frees us from sin. Joy. It's a slightly harder one to come up, for example. I don't know why I struggle with this one, but now my example is escaping me. Oh man, I spent so much time working on this one. It was like took forever. Okay, I'll come back to that one. We'll get to that one now. Hopefully it'll run its lap and around my mind and rejoin me where I am. Okay, so faith or belief. If my passions or desires only increase my faith in God. So if I have a passion or desire to go out and pray for the sick, and whether they're healed or not, that doesn't matter. But if that increases my faith in God, because I'm stepping out in faith, is that a God-given passion or desire? Yes. There we go. I like this guy. He answers. I think this is the first time I've seen you here, Anthony, but let's come again. Okay. If my passion or desire is to run away from what God calls me to, that will decrease my faith in Him because I'm not practicing it. Is that a God-given passion or desire? This is an easy one. No. So, my example for joy has not passed me on the side. Let me see if I can think of it, or another one. If I am I've got it. If I am going out every weekend on a mission trip, every weekend, you never find me because I'm always somewhere out remote, preaching the gospel to people who have never heard it. Every weekend I'm doing this. I'm not a full-time missionary, but I'm doing this all the time. But there's no joy in it. I don't feel satisfied. There's no thing. I just do it because God said go out to the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And I'm like, okay, let's do that every weekend mission trip. Let's go. And I find no joy in it. Is that a God-given passion or desire? No, it's not. But I don't know why I opened the book there. But if I do the same thing once every year, once every 2 years, but I walk out of it, or I walk into it knowing God wants me to be there, and God